Senator, let me ask you about the Supreme Court vacancy that sits open. President Trump says he will announce his nominee this Saturday. And Lindsey Graham, the chair of the Judiciary Committee, as you know, has said he wants an expedited hearing and a vote within the next few weeks before we hit Halloween and certainly before the election. Democrats don't appear to have the votes to do anything about that right now. Do you think differently?
No, we don't appear to have the votes to do anything about it right now. We still don't know where everyone stands. And so it's going to be a long shot. We're going to do everything we can to try to appeal to their sense of decency. That you can't just a matter of months ago, as Lindsey Graham did, say that there is a standard, say that you will uphold it, tell people to use your words against you on this matter, and then have them suddenly flip and change that. As we said earlier, this is delegitimizing and politicizing the Supreme Court in a way that will be so damaging to our democracy. Again, you cannot have two different standards, one for Donald Trump and one for Barack Obama, because in that case, what you're doing, in effect, is giving Barack Obama a 3-year term in terms of the Supreme Court, and President Trump a 5-year term. And so we are really at a painful moment right now. And I think Democrats are going to continue to appeal to the sense of honor that when someone gives their word, as Lindsey Graham did, that they can't just break it and think that you're going to be breaking more than your word, but really cracking and damaging our sacred institutions like the Supreme Court.
I know you've heard some Democrats say, okay, Republicans, if you're going to violate norms, we'll do you one better. And if you get your nominee in, we will expand the court by, say, 2 seats next year if we win back the Senate. Is that a good idea?
Look, I think it's not a good idea to be discussing that right now, because there's one big presupposition in that, is that we win in November. We have to win the Senate back and the presidency to have any options, even have that kind of debate, and we haven't done it. What this should be doing is animating people, because right now this Supreme Court decision is going to affect people's health care, Medicaid expansion, Roe v. Wade, your right to organize as a union, your voice in this democracy against corporations who are rising in power thanks to Citizens United, and so much more. This should become the election where right now we turn all of our fear into fight, our worry into work, and the agonizing that's going on right now into organizing so that we win this election. And then let's start debating what we should do if the Democrats are in the majority. But that, to me, to jump to that is irresponsible and losing focus on the matter at hand, which is winning in November.
But do you agree it's something that's on the table if you do win?
Well, Chuck Schumer, who would be the leader, has said everything is on the table. But right now, I just think that is folly to engage in those kind of discussions when we haven't even won the elections yet. There'll be a real debate on a lot of things should Democrats get in control. But right now, in states from Montana to Arizona to North Carolina, that's not constructive in any way. What's constructive is organizing, working, volunteering, making campaign contributions against all this dark money that Mitch McConnell is so good at summoning. All of us individuals have to start trying to help support us getting back the United States Senate. Then we have a whole suite of options that can try to undo the damage that they are intent on doing and tearing down the Affordable Care Act, ending the pre-existing condition insurances that you can get insurance, and so many more issues. We've got to focus on what's important, and the most important thing right now, it seems, as we are running out of maneuvers and options in the Senate to block this hastily done replacement, is to win this election in 40 days.
So, Melissa Murray, what's your take on how this is going to play out? And I'd like to add a caveat to that, not how we think it should play out, but given the patterns that we have seen over the past 3 years, how do you think this is going to play out?
Well, I think it's obvious that Leader McConnell and the president understand that the courts are absolutely central to their efforts to consolidate Republican power, even in the face of an lacking Democratic mandate to do so. And, the talk of structural reform and court packing really is a miss because, in fact, the courts have already been packed. For the last 4 years, the president has been unable to press his own political agenda, with the exception of loading the courts with young conservative judges who will serve for generations. The Supreme Court is merely the last step in that plan. This is an opportunity for Leader McConnell and the president to solidify a third of the court in Trump control, and they're going to press this, and I think we are going to see a confirmation despite the best efforts of the Democrats. And the real question is, what will the people do? Will the president really have a Democratic mandate after November 3rd?
Senator Booker, while we have you here and before we let you go, I want to ask you about the decision in the Breonna Taylor case, the grand jury decision yesterday. One officer was charged, two others were not. The officer was not charged for the shooting death of Breonna Taylor on March 13th in her own home. He was charged for wanton endangerment for firing into a neighboring apartment. As you listened to the Attorney General in Kentucky explain the decision, what was your reaction?
Sadness and anger. That we live in a country where you could be sleeping in your bed and have people storm into your home, not because you're a suspected murderer or some kind of violent felon, but because of suspicion of drug crimes, and kill you. None of us, when we go to bed at night, would think that's justified and justice. And so justice has not been done. It's why in the Senate we're working so hard to try to ban that kind of police action. So we have a severe lack of justice, and I think I'm not the only person that just felt sad and angry yesterday. And now we need to channel that into the kind of work that's going to end this ongoing nightmare that goes back generations, where we see a police force, police in this country, too often killing unarmed African Americans, whether they're sleeping in their bed or being choked out on a New York City street. This is happening far too often in violation of the highest ideals of this country, which is equal justice under the law and justice for all. We have work to do, America, and we all know it. We have to admit that this is a matter of urgency. It's a matter of life or death, and we need to begin to take real actions. And I believe, again, we are at a crossroads in our country. One president who not only denies that this is even a problem, but actually tries to incite more division along racial lines, and another presidential candidate that is trying to unite this country into common purpose and common cause around our highest ideals, as well as values of decency and honor and grace.
Senator Cory Booker, thank you very, very much.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.